African Union member states, including South Africa, are experiencing an upsurge in public health problems due to increasing availability and the use of psychoactive substances trafficked into the continent and also produced locally. Many of them are facing a meltdown. The African Union is concerned by the general lack of drug demand reduction interventions across the continent, which contribute to the growing burden of non-communicable diseases. It is imperative that AU member states implement integrated, multi-sectoral, balanced, and comprehensive responses to drug challenges, as articulated in the African Union's current Continental Drug Control Framework. Our priority remains to leave no one behind, in line with the ideals of the African Union's Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, an integrated, peaceful, and prosperous continent. Let me reiterate the African Union's commitment to providing political leadership needed to push forward the agenda for the health, security, and socio-economic well-being of the people in Africa. The integration of traditional leaders in drug demand reduction is one of the many interventions we are exploring and implementing to address mounting drug challenges in our communities. The African Union Commission continues to provide overall coordination, strategic guidance, training, and dissemination of good practices to assist member states in addressing drug challenges on the continent.
The last thing I would like to say to all our social partners that are here is that we need to move from theorizing the drug problem and all our social ills to actually implementing what we are talking about. As you are saying that we are dealing with an action plan, we need to see action. We need to move from the city to the rural area. Hopefully next time when we meet or in between the next gathering of this nature, we would find ourselves as partners in various villages of our country and implementing this actual program and speaking to our people and making sure that with all the partners that are not even here, we speak to our people, we confront the problem, and we can measure actual progress if we will be making any.
I would like to congratulate the African Union for beginning to integrate traditional leaders in drug dependency treatment and care, really widening community reach and interventions to address this growing burden of substance use and related mental health disorders. I must also thank the traditional leaders for joining this two-day meeting. And in that regard, may I appreciate you for your efforts in addressing the challenges of drugs at the community level through your leadership and for signing a pledge in 2022 to take the drug demand reduction activities forward. Let me further appreciate the efforts of the Department of Correctional Services and collaboration by many other stakeholders from South Africa by developing a draft national action plan for discussion and for implementation by the traditional and Khoisan leadership.
As the Deputy Minister responsible for traditional affairs, I commit that the traditional sectors, through the National House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders, will ensure that the action plan is implemented. What we seek as the traditional sector is collaboration, not just consultation as a tick box. We must see action, action, and action. The traditional leadership has remained a custodian of culture, customs, originality, and history in many parts of Africa. And it's high time we integrate them in drug intervention reductions. This plan will certainly alleviate that. Not only participating in these different structures, but we must make sure that at the regional structures, starting with the SADC, including the African Union, traditional leadership must have a role, place, and space, because the African Union, without the institution of royalty, is not complete. It will only be complete when all the institutions of civil society, all the organs that represent the various sectors of our people are represented. And in that regard, we want to say traditional leadership of South Africa, working together with all traditional leaders of the continent, the time has come for you to assume your role and provide leadership.
It is encouraging that the workshop adopted a continental outlook with an appetite to share knowledge within the SADC region. Excellencies, there is no question that harmful substance use and mental illness are strongly interrelated. In our fight against substance addiction, we need evidence-based prevention strategies, driven also by technology, as was demonstrated earlier. When we met last year in November, we were introduced to the alcohol, smoking, and substance involvement screening test, a powerful self-assessment tool converted to a web application. We have the International Technology Transfer Center and the Department of Correctional Services to thank for developing the web application, which we have since gifted to the nation through our sister departments of social development and health. The next step is to make the tool accessible to rural communities and for the stakeholders gathered here today to collectively devise strategies to overcome barriers to access and adoption.
And I am happy to say that all the provincial leaders adopted that national action plan and are looking forward to taking bold steps in terms of implementation with the assistance of stakeholders who also came up with various strategies and contributed to the development of that national action plan. And as a continental body, the African Union, we are keenly watching how this model will be rolled out in South Africa. And if it is successful, our plan is to take it beyond the borders of South Africa to the sub-region, but also to the continent, because we are indeed facing a problem of epic proportions in terms of drug use and substance use disorders, particularly affecting women, youth, and children. The African Union stands ready to leverage technical assistance from its strategic partners to take this program forward, and we will also render technical assistance and capacity building as necessary.